Of course, we start things off with a man who is no stranger to the Observer. Let me take this time to wish him a happy new year to him and his family. We're talking about political analyst Dr. Bishnu Ragoonath. Pleasant good evening, sir.
Good evening, and Happy New Year to you and your listeners and
Same to you.
viewers.
Thank you so much. Best of health and financial prosperity, peace and happiness to you and yours.
I just want to be safe.
Of course. We're looking at what's happening on the, the local political climate. I mean, so much has been taking place since, of course, the announcement by the Prime Minister, making it clear that he will be stepping out of the political arena. You, of course, made it clear that there's no telling how the rank and file of the ruling People's National Movement will, of course, deal or should we say make any special accommodation? What kind of support? We're seeing where the numbers were a secret ballot of 9 to 11. What does this say? I mean, so many people, of course, Robert Lahunt, a former minister, weighed in on this, and he said that if one is going to be leader, then one has to have the full support of everyone in the room. What says you?
Well, I don't think that you need to have the support of everyone in the room, but the point about it is simply one that you should have, that clear support from your entire grouping. What we heard is that we are hearing is simply that somebody said 9/11. Now, I don't know how that 9/11 was tallied, and who got the 9 and who got the 11. What we heard afterwards was simply that the PNM the PNM Parliamentary Caucus came out and said that they were going to give their support to Mr. Young. And in true cabinet responsibility fashion, all members of the Parliamentary Caucus simply had to accept and move on and defend that decision. So that is what has happened. Of course, some members of Parliament, for instance, have not said anything about it. I understand when the Penelope Beckers was asked, she refused to comment further. Of course, other people would speak on her behalf, but I can't believe what everybody says. So, literally, what we have now is a situation where the Parliamentary Caucus have decided that they're going to support Stuart Young as the next Prime Minister. I am assuming, and it's a big assumption on my part, that coming out of that Parliamentary Caucus on Monday evening, the Prime Minister would have already, or the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister designate would have gotten a letter done addressed to Her Excellency, where they would have gotten all the members of Parliament to affix their signatures, so there would be no foul-ups as they move forward. But I mean, I don't know whether that was done. In a way, expected that it would have been done. So we wait and see how the General Council, I think, most importantly, deals with it as we move forward into.
Yeah, but Dr. Ragnar, of course, our political culture is one where we are accustomed to electing a prime minister rather than having one selected in such a manner that we're witnessing now. Last night, of course, we had a political analyst, Indira Ramprasad, on, and she cut straight to the point. She said, listen, there has to be something here that Dr. Rowley is running from. We're not going to know perhaps until later on down the road, but it was quite a coward move. When in fact we've had prime ministers before and they've all faced the polls. Whether they were popular or not, they got there, they of course presented themselves, and it was decided by the people who they wanted to give that mandate to. Why are things shaping up the way they are now? Is it internal factors? Is it geopolitical factors? I mean, there's so much assumptions and people weighing in on this. But if you had to connect the dots, what would you take out of all of this?
My take out of all of this is simply that Kate Rowley has read the political environment. He has read what is happening, and more importantly, he is also under some degree of pressure from other forces who will remain nameless at this point in time as to him staying on as leader of the party. I think financiers, for instance, may have been suggesting that they wanted somebody else to lead the party into the election. Well, get it. As to what is happening with Keith Rowley, I think the biggest issue here that I would have is simply he has not yet clearly identified what he's going to do, except for resigning as Prime Minister. Is he actually going to give up the leadership of the party immediately? Is he going to wait till September when he has proposed an election of a leadership election convention? We don't know any of those things. And more importantly, the question is he hoping to literally be a puppet master behind a prime minister where he's given Stuart Young prime ministership, but he's going to maintain control of the party? The mere fact that he said on Monday, well, whichever date was that, he has set the date for the PNM Leadership Convention, tells me that clearly he wants to control things still. He's treating the PNM as if it is his own personal institution. It is not the people's institution, and he's deciding when to go, when to say what, and so on. And that, I think, spells disaster for a party which has been in existence for so long. And if they are simply going to continue in that vein and allow Keith Rowley to have his way, that would seriously undermine the PNM. But I have digressed from your question as to what exactly is Keith Rowley's future in the politics. And he has not made that quite clear.
Yeah, I mean
that he's given up prime ministership.
Well, he's saying that, yes, of course, to spend more time with his family, but is it that the PNM is going to go into the elections where the political leader is not the prime minister and the prime minister is not the political leader?
Well, that is the challenge we have. No, we have all of these nice theories, and we can say, well, is Keith Rowley setting up Stuart Young to defeat? Or does he really believe that the PNM? Does he believe that the PNM is going to lose the election, the general election, and therefore decides to call it quits before? So he goes out with a clean record of having never lost a general election. We don't know what is driving him at this point in time, save and except that he says he wants to go with his family. But which family? And somebody raised that question because the PNM is his family, and he's not making it quite clear as to whether he's given up control of that family or not.
All right. Now, the perception has always been that the PNM is a Afro-based party. Now you have a man who has been thrust upon the leaders, and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, which ethnicity is not that of Afro-Trinbagonian. How is that going to augur well with the rank and file, if you look at it from that perspective?
No, let's just stop, put a pin on that, the ethnicity thing. But let's go to one of the other things. Stuart Young. Stuart Young has come into the politics of the PNM, for all intents and purposes, in the last 10 years. He was not there long before that. His only mentor in the PNM has been Keith Rowley. So he has been trained by Keith Rowley. Can he unite the PNM in the context of simply saying, regardless of what they say, in the same way you raise the question that the PNM is an Afro-based party, in the same way I will tell you that there are divisions in the PNM. There's still a Manin division in the PNM. There is now a Rowley division in the PNM. And the question is, can Stuart Young bridge that gap between those two groupings? And I don't think so, because he has only been trained under Keith Rowley. Now, I say that when I compare him, for instance, with Penelope Beckles, who have served under Manning, who have served under Rowley, and would have had the benefit of the experiences of both leaders. But Stuart Young now has been trained largely by Keith Rowley. I mean, we see him exhibiting all the attitudes and behavioral perspectives and the arrogance and everything else that Keith Rowley exhibits. So that becomes a problem for him. Now you ask the question, and I come back now to your initial question, on the race issue and the ethnicity issue. And clearly that is going to create a problem. That is why, for instance, it is my belief, that is why when Jennifer Batiste was asked the question, she said that if Stuart Young went to a national convention, a PNM convention, he will not necessarily win, but rather he will be easily beaten because of the race issue. Now, recently, in a discussion with some other people that I was having, and talking about the whole issue of race and ethnicity in Trinidad and Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago's politics, and the stereotyping, somebody went back to me and says, well, you know, when Shamfa Kojo became minister, there was a headline in one of the newspapers that says, "Is we time now?" or something to that effect. Or we in charge, sorry, we in charge. Yeah. And to that extent, the question has been asked, when she said we in charge, who is the we? Is it we the PNM? Is it we the Afro-Trinbagonian community? And again, going back to the stereotyping, there has been the suggestion that has been made many a time in the past, that the one thing that the Afro community in Trinidad and Tobago has is that of political power. And that becomes important there. They don't have the economic power as a la the Syrian, the 1% community and the business community. And they don't have the power with regard to the social power in the context of the majority of doctors and lawyers and so on. People say Indo-Trinidadians, and Indo-Trinidadians also own property as opposed to. So when you go back to all of those stereotyping, the one thing that the Afro-Trinidadian community had was power, political power.
Yeah.
By giving Stuart Young leadership of the PNM, are you now denying them that last bastion that they could hold on to and say, this is what we have, because we have political power. Under Keith Rowley, they had political power. Under Patrick Manning, they had political power. Under Eric Williams, they had political power. Now the question I beg, and no, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Stuart Young, his race denies him that opportunity to serve as Prime Minister. But as for the PNM, they're going to have that question. Salvin Kojo has raised that issue many
times. I think we should put it in the right perspective. I mean, let's not pull any punches here. The perception would be that, can he connect with especially the East-West corridor and the people on the ground? I mean, they want to know, they want to feel as though this is someone who understands their plight. This is someone who understands what it means to, when you come out and you support, that they say it with pride, I am going to be this until I die, I'm sticking to my own. All of these things are phrases that are used to bring about some sense of the fact that they're affiliated with the political party. And this goes back years and years. I mean, are they ready now for this paradigm shift to say, listen, Dr. Rowley has said, this is my blue-eyed boy, this is who I want, and this is who I'm going to thrust upon the people. The very same people, again, who would say, listen, I don't think that I can identify with this individual.
And that is a serious that's a serious concern for the PNM. And the rank and file membership of the PNM will not simply buy into that. Now, I am waiting, I would wait breath literally to see the kind of bullying tactics that is probably going to be used on Saturday at General Council. But the point about it, I think that if there's that testicular fortitude amongst the General Council, they could demand that a convention be held for the leadership of the PNM.
All right.
No, they did it and they succeeded in it in October of last year. But guess what? After they succeeded, what happened to General Council? General Council, as far as I'm aware, is supposed to have meetings once per month. Since the 26th of October last year, when Jennifer Baptiste, Primus, and others forced the hand of the General Secretary to withdraw his cancellation of the convention and say, all right, it is now only a postponement. They have not had a General Council meeting since then. Do they have that wherewithal to stand up again against the General Council, against the chairman of the party, Stuart Young, the Prime Minister, the political leader who supports Stuart Young, and tell them, no, we need to go to a convention, and yes, we want to choose our leader. And to that extent, if they force the hand of the party to call a leadership convention, and what happens if Stuart Young is not chosen as the leader? Will the 21 signatures they have on a letter hold for the president, or will the president have to rethink and choose in her discretion who commands the majority?
Now, let me ask you this, Dr. Ragoonath. Now, how much of this that we are dealing with here and seeing playing out has to do with the fact of following the procedures and policies of the party that some would say cannot be circumvented for anyone, versus the fact that if there was this sense of full confidence in Mr. Young, this sense of political comfort that he can do the job, he's competent, because there are many challenges. I mean, crime has not been dealt with. The Forex challenge has not been dealt with. Poor infrastructure, the school system, the health system, all of these challenging things, an economy that has gone past stagnation. Now, if he was competent enough to deliver, if there was this sense of confidence in him, versus the fact that what they're doing here is just making up things as they go along and putting aside the constitution of the party, then what are we really dealing with here?
We're dealing with a dictatorial political leader who is treated a party institution, a party which existed long before his time, as it is his own personal organization to do and please as he wishes. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it reminded me when Watson Duke in Tobago said, I am the political leader and I am the owner of the PDP. And to that extent, what I say for the PDP goes. We now have to ask ourselves whether Keith Rowley now believes that whatever he says goes for the PNM, and whether there are people in the PNM who is willing to stand up and say that is not good.
Yeah, but there has to be a time, besides coming from a family with a strong business background, where we've seen family members who started off with a little financial leasing company, overnight became a merchant bank, then overnight became a mortgage bank, when you still have people in this country who are trying to even get their parlor to evolve into a mini mart. He has had that luxury. He comes across, as you said, arrogant. He comes across as someone who has been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He comes across as someone who is not up to the challenges because he was there. The times that he recused himself from cabinet had nothing to do with the interests of the people of his constituency and by extension Trinidad and Tobago. It was his own personal interest. Now again, At some point in time, these things will have to be looked at. Will the PNM people, those members, feel betrayed because they didn't sign on for Stuart Young? They supported Dr. Rowley.
And I agree with you on that totally. But again, you see, the one thing that the PNM has going for it at this point in time is the party discipline. And the party discipline, and regardless of what happens, the rank and file is told, follow the leadership and follow the directions of your leadership. Will the party now say yay or nay to a leadership which is guiding them in one direction? The answer, however, well, I should say the answer, but rather the direction in which you go in saying that Stuart Young has not necessarily been this success story, and therefore, because he has not been a success story in the political arena, would now question as to whether or not why would the PNM want to support it. That becomes a critical question, but I'm not sure that is going to be answered now.
Yeah, but I understand that.
In a general election.
Right, but it has to be answered at some point in time because he may be an asset for Dr. Rowley, but he may be a liability for the PNM.
Exactly. And I think that is, and when I say he's going to, I mean, I don't think he may be a liability. I think he is a liability for the PNM as the PNM moves forward into a general election. Because as you correctly said, the state of the country in the last 5 years has deteriorated significantly, economically, socially, politically, everything else. And when Stuart Young decides, or if Stuart Young is given leadership of the party, goes into a general election, that is exactly what the opposition is going to say. That under his tenure now, Rowley will not be there to be facing the music. But it comes back to the same problem that Kamala Harris had in the US when she could not shake off the fact that she stood with Joe Biden for the last 4 years. And everything that was implemented in the US, she had to take responsibility for it. Likewise, the Stuart Young, when he takes leadership, will have to take that responsibility. And to that extent, that is where the PNM is going to have to answer the question. One, we spoke about it in a roundabout way. Will he be able to unite the PNM as a party? My position on that is no. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll be able to reach out to the grassroots base of the PNM because people don't see him as coming from their ilk and their background and their challenges. They see him as being somebody who has always been supported by a family that could afford to do so, and he does not suffer the consequences or the challenges that the normal everyday citizen faces.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I do not think he'll be able to bridge that gap. He will not, like I said before, I don't think he'll be able to bridge the gap with regard to some of the Manning supporters of the PNM who are still strong in their own segment of the party. So in a way, what we will see as we go into a general election is whether we're going to have a divided PNM rather than a unified PNM. And once you have a divided PNM, that creates a problem for the party. So in a way, he becomes a liability for the party in its quest to retain government.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what transpired at the retreat, even the media in a coded message had to answer what was being circulated as far as those who voted for Penny's team or Stuart Young's team, as the case may be. Now, these very same individuals were seen gathering together in a meeting. Now, if everything went well and everything was transparent and everything was above board, there would have been no reason for anyone to meet after. The winning team doesn't meet right after to discuss mistakes. That's left up to those who basically felt that they were cheated and they lost out on the opportunity. Taking that in consideration, are we going to be seeing some political waves, some sort of underlining here where there's not going to be that much of a unity moving forward if certain people do not get their way?
Well, again, that would depend on the party and its ability to galvanize itself and to surround itself or in a way dictate and demand from its membership the discipline that they have always had. I expect there to be waves. I expect people not to accept it. I expect, for instance, people like Selwyn Kocho, Mr. Lee Hunt and others to come out strong and criticize the PNM and saying that the PNM has been literally sold out. I expect those things. And they will continue to say that between now and the general election, as long as Stuart Young is given the leadership. So once you have those rumblings in the national environment, then you will now have, the PNM will have to deal with that. And, maybe I shouldn't say they have to deal with it, but they will have to do damage control. The question is the extent to which they will do damage control as to whether, bearing in mind that we have literally a 6-month time frame for a general election. Is that sufficient time for them to do that kind of damage control? And that is where this whole issue comes to rest. A general election has to be held by the end of August.
All right. Any closing comments? Go right ahead.
Well, basically, all I will say is that we wait with bated breath to see how the General Council deals with this whole matter on Saturday. We have not seen an agenda. We don't know whether it's going to be an open meeting or a closed door meeting. So all of these are critical issues. Whether some people will be excluded, we really have to wait and see, and what voices come out after the General Council meeting to tell the population where they stand in the PNM. So you see, it's really an interesting time for the party.
Very, and for the country as well. Very much so. Thank you so much again for bringing that insight to us. Thank you, and do enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
Thank you.